Today, I'm going to tell you the story of this Walther PPK, and I think it's going to rock your world. Okay, when I tell the story of this gun, first of all, I have to tell you my history with this gun and then a little bit about the more extended history. It actually is a Luftwaffe issued Walther PPK. You can see it's a nice high polished finish, and it comes in the original box with 2 matching magazines. Now, I need to talk about that quite a bit because theoretically that never happened. But let me start with my history on this gun. I picked this up from a collector friend. He called me up and said, I found this Walther PPK. It's in the original box. It's Luftwaffe. And I said, that can't be. The reason I say it can't be is because when guns were shipped to the military, they were typically large orders. And the pictures that I've seen of military guns, they came in large wooden crates. And we see that at Lugers, P-38s. We've had some pictures. I've also, I don't know if I can find one now because this is going back 20 years. There are pictures of Walther PPs and PPKs lined up in crates. So I said, when the military bought guns, they would have come in crates. They would not have come in one of these commercial boxes. But then over the years, I have found several, and many of you have seen or might even own, a police PP or PPK in the original box. And we certainly know, because I wrote a whole book on the topic, we have pictures of SS contract guns in the box just like this. So is it possible that the Army got some of their guns in these commercial boxes? I believe they did, and I'll tell you the story about this, but I'm back to my story. My friend calls me up, says, I have this, I think it's impossible, do you want to see it? I said, absolutely. It was the Valley Forge Gun Show. Now, the Valley Forge Gun Show has not been in business for, I think, 18 to 20 years. So we're going back 18 to 20 years ago, I first came across this gun. It cost me more than I could afford, but I knew of a collector that would probably buy it. I think I even got on the phone, I called a few people and they said, what do you think? And they said the same thing I did. I don't know how that could be. And I said, oh, it be. So I bought long story short, I bought this gun about 18 to 20 years ago, and then I sold it to a collector friend named Tom out in the Midwest. I told him at the time that I sold it, if you ever decide to sell this gun, please offer it to me first. Now, I've said that to many collectors in the past, and a lot of times they never remember that ever transpired. And I see my gun, my lovely gun, on an auction somewhere, and I think, oh well, they probably forgot. But Tom contacted me recently and said, remember that Walther PPK Luftwaffe? And I said, that is one of the guns I always regretted selling. Anyway, long story short, he offered it back to me, and Tom, shout out to you. You're a man of your word, and thank you for being such a good caretaker of this gun. And all of you on YouTube are just going to be blown away when you come on in and take a look. Okay, this is the way it would unpack when I first bought it, and certainly this is the way that it would come in the box. That is the correct box, marked PPK. This is called the green label, and there is the serial number to the gun. I'm 100% sure that that is original and correct because I've seen dozens and dozens of these, and I've seen people who have tried to fake them. This is most certainly original. So there's the box. This gun would have been made in about 1940, and there's, by the way, the original cleaning rod. Here's the original manual. It's in cellophane, and it would be dated February of 1940. Then we have what we call the tin. The early tin had the factory on it. This one is a 1940 tin. There's the tin with the oiler and the little cellophane. It says Walther on there. I won't take that out, but it does have a little bit of original oil, so this is all correct. And then the gun sits in the case like that. There's a little partition which is not broken. This case is in pretty good condition. Now, the story that was told, the guy that sold it to me said that this was picked up by the vet. He got it from the vet. It was, they had occupied a Luftwaffe base. It was kind of remote. He didn't say exactly where it was, but he said they opened up a closet, and there were 2 of these box guns in the closet, up on the shelf, basically never issued. So the theory would be the Luftwaffe base said, hey, we need 20 more Walthers. I would assume when they ordered several hundred or even 1,000, they would come in crates. But if you say, hey, we need 20 more, they issued them to the people who needed them, and the extras they stuck in a closet. And by the way, I've heard the same thing about police stations. They would find box guns in the closet. Because normally, once this was issued, I would imagine the pilot or whoever got it would have put it into a holster like this, and then they would promptly throw away the box. They weren't they weren't saving the boxes in their barracks. They were just throwing everything away or into a duffel bag. But this is brand new in the box, never issued. And if you look at the finish, absolutely beautiful. You can see the Waffen stamps, which, by the way, that just means military issue, not necessarily Luftwaffe, but that is military issue. High polished finish and Eagle N and the serial number, which is in the 303,000 serial range. This also looks brand new, unissued condition. So this just means it was issued to the military, but the serial number contract coincides with a Luftwaffe contract. Now, if you know my SS book, the reason we know that the guns are SS, they have distinct characteristics. Some of the characteristics are numbering on the frame and the slide, but also the magazines, and this one does have matching magazines. I'll show that to you. But they all fall in a serial range, and this gun falls into a serial range with other known Luftwaffe guns. And the way that we know they're Luftwaffe, sometimes we find some records at the Luftwaffe base, and it'll list some serial numbers of guns that were issued to the Luftwaffe base, and we can go back and see, did they have any unusual characteristics? In this case, oh, by the way, also in Britain, there is an incident of a pilot being shot down. I saw the gun, I handled the gun. A collector friend named Harold had the gun, and it came in this holster, which is Luftwaffe marked, and it was a gun exactly like this with 2 matching magazines, and it was taken from a pilot that was shot down and surrendered over Britain. So we know that there's certain characteristics of the Luftwaffe contract. This is in the correct range. Finally, we see that it comes with 2 matching magazines. There's the 2 matching magazines. Now, also what's interesting about this is ideal for me because I have this conversation quite often, that sometimes I'll have 2 matching magazines. One is Walther banner, and the other one will be will have the caliber. This has the banner and the caliber, but if you notice, one has a high polish finish and one has a duller finish. So somebody will say, that never happened. The Germans would never take 2. These are not issued at the same time, and therefore these 2 matching magazines have to be fake. I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday, and I say this over and over again. They were making these for war, not for collectors. There's no way, well, in the assembly line, they had bins full of magazines, and they were reaching in and grabbing 2, and they weren't saying, hold on, these 2 don't match, go find me a high polished one. These were made at a different time. This was an earlier mag, this is a little bit later, but they were all thrown in bids. It wasn't always first in, first out. Sometimes they dumped them on top, and they were working. Remember, they by 1940, they're using slave labor. They would get beaten if they didn't meet their quota. And so they're just grabbing these things. And so, yes, this happened all the time in terms of matching magazines that have different markings. But I'm convinced that this is 2 matching magazines along with a matching box as well as the gun to go with it. Now, as a way of further explanation, this is the assembly as I bought it at the Valley Forge show almost 20 years ago. Sold it, got it back exactly like this. However, these were added, and doesn't matter who or why, other than this is a Luftwaffe brocade belt, and this is a dropping holster, which is Luftwaffe marked. Right there is the Luftwaffe marking. It is dated 1941. You won't be able to see this, but I did it. I looked at it through with magnification, and this is pistol model PPK. And then caliber with a K, 7.65, and that's the Luftwaffe proof. So this is a Luftwaffe holster in near mint condition with a brocade. It would be like a decorative or a dress brocade belt with a Luftwaffe belt buckle. And so I'm keeping these together just because it makes a really nice assembly. Okay, now some of you are going to be really upset about it, but ever since I sold this, this is the one gun that I regretted the most. There's other guns that I regretted selling. This is the one that I regretted the most, and I'm just so thankful that Tom offered it back to me. Therefore, I am not going to let it out of my grubby little mitts again. So please don't ask if you can buy it. You can't. It's not available. You'll have to talk to my son after I'm gone. He probably will have it in the safe. Now, I also want to say, 20 years of collecting, actually 30 years of collecting, I've never seen another box 2-match mag Luftwaffe or any kind of military, whether it's PP or PPK. I've never seen another one. If you know of, or if you've seen another one, let us know. We'll keep track of that and try to figure out how many there are. I eventually will write a book about the military issued Walthers PPs and PPKs, and so I'd like to publish that list. And this gun with the box will be on the cover of that book.